Play. Yuri, what's going on, man? Manchester City got demolished by Aston Villa. Probably should have been more goals in that game for Villa.
There wasn't even a minute where I thought that City had any control on the game. The first half was all about giving the ball to Jack Grealish, and this guy has no capacity to take on Matty Cash. No capacity. Villa resorted to so many reckless fouls, challenges, minute on minute, but that really paid off for them. They took it for the team. They won the game, right? Fair and square. First half was all about counter-attacking. It was all transitional for Aston Villa. They held on to their composure. They were patient. You know what? Unai Emery went back into the dressing room. He told them, City's dog shit. We can take charge of this game. I want you guys to bring the possession in our hands and let's just absolutely blemish them. They have completely outclassed them in this game, bro. And Pep
No,
Guardiola, I mean, yeah.
yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I think across 90 minutes, Man City, they were outclassed, especially in that first half as well, and some periods in the beginning of the second half as well. But in terms of this game, right? Aston Villa came into this game and high on confidence as well due to the fact that it's a City team that just lost to Manchester United. They have beaten Man City before at Villa Park as well, so it's not like they were afraid of Manchester City. Now is the best time to play City as well. City coming off the
True.
back of a defeat in the derby against United. Obviously, they would have wanted to respond in this game against Aston Villa. But for me, Yudi, I think City losing this game is the nail in the coffin for their title hopes for the remainder of the season. I know that they lost the games before, but I think in terms of how they played today, I think it was really, really poor from Man City, from the defensive display of the defenders to the midfield players, and more so to the wide players as well. Jack Grealish really, really and truly didn't have any impact on this game. Erling Haaland as well. I don't think for the game he had a touch in Aston Villa's penalty box. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna even delve further into the stats. I mean, obviously, whenever you play a team like Man City, they're gonna control most of the possession of the ball. But in terms of how Aston Villa played in with possession of the ball when they had it on that transition, hitting City on the counter attack. Let's talk about Morgan Rogers, because for me, Morgan Rogers is the man of the match in this game for me. Exceptional, sublime performance. Thoughts on Morgan Rogers across this 90 minutes, because he was the key to getting the best of this Man City team.
Yeah, man. I think Morgan Rogers was made to look like Morgan Freeman, to be honest. The way he was skimming past the defenders, he was absolutely astonishing to watch. What a brilliant footballer. To be honest, more than that, I think John Duran was more convincing. John Duran was made to look like John Wick with a couple of bazookas, man, making Ortega dance on his feet. And this is what really impressed me the most. Morgan Rogers was absolutely uncontrollable. I think great ball carrying ability, really tenacious on the ball, and he's a good dribbler as well. The control that he exhibited getting past the midfield, and more than that, I think it was Yuri Tielemans, with the line breaking passes. I think those passes, the scintillating passes, actually got through City on so many occasions. It wasn't just once; it was every time they lost possession, they lost the ball. They couldn't really compress the spaces, and it was so easy for Aston Villa, for Yuri Tielemans to ensure the runners are doing their job and to find them ahead with the through balls. It was that easy. And it's not just about the possession. You were just mentioning the stats. I don't believe possession really played a part in this game. I think off the ball, on the ball, Aston Villa absolutely dominated them, right?
Yeah, I
And
think Aston Villa definitely utilized the pitch more in terms of runners in behind and runners into those crucial spaces. And Man City, playing with a back three, they're playing Rico Lewis as kind of inverted. It doesn't help them, especially when when they're trying to defend on that back foot, especially with a team counter attacking and utilizing the ball in good areas of the pitch as well. Countless times, John McGinn as well had a good game, but I think John McGinn could have done much better with some passes in that final third. And if he did, it could have been a bit more detrimental for Man City. But John McGinn, he had a good game, but should have done better on some of those passes in the final third, especially on that counter attack. But as I said, it wasn't so much about possession in this game. It was more, what Aston Villa did with that ball in crucial areas of the pitch, having those runners in behind and moving into spaces. You talk about Morgan Rogers, other than having an exceptional game and getting that goal, which was a brilliant display from him, picking up the ball from basically in his half, going up the pitch, finding John McGinn, and finding himself into space. Good shot, beating Ortega, the Man City goalkeeper. But just his pure dribbling in this game caused so many problems for Manchester City. There was one moment in the game in which he should have scored at that time. I think it hit off the post as well. You quite will remember that as well. And that was a Morgan Rogers shot. But moving on to our next player that I would like to discuss for Aston Villa. Nobody talks about him much. I love this guy. Amadou Onana. Wonderful in this game. Had a wonderful display. You know, before I went to Aston Villa, I wanted him at United. Amadou Onana. Talk to me about Amadou Onana and his game today.
Bro, I think Onana was absolutely impeccable. I think outclassed the midfield, controlled the midfield, mocked the midfield, did everything he had to do for the game, right? I think Onana and even the guy next to him, Bubikar, no, what is his name? Kamara. I think
Yeah.
Kamara had an exceptional second half too. I think first half he was trying to read the game, trying to see what City's going to offer. I think it was all about Onana and McGinn intercepting the balls in the first half. Even Matty Cash had a huge role to play in that. But second half, man, Onana overall in the game was just the key that they needed. He was the guy who unlocked the city's attacks, all through and through. I think Onana is such an exceptional player. Even in Everton, when he played for them, I think he did the job. His job is just to ensure that he's winning the balls and spraying the passes ahead. And that's what he did in this game too. And more than that, it was so easy for him to do a one-on-one with John Duran and get past the opposition and become a striker. He was playing a
Yeah.
striker's role in certain transitions, and he was going ahead, he was rushing ahead. And the chemistry, they were so in sync. There was a time when I used to think that Emi Buendia,
Mhm.
Coutinho, these players are going to be like majestic. But when you get to see such beautiful players playing fluidic football, it is not, it is their individual talent, but it is the manager too. The manager is an absolutely brilliant guy, Unai Emery. I think
Definitely.
we have to give credit to him. It is where it is going to be standing, right? At this point in time, I still feel the defenders. I don't believe that Aston Villa's fullbacks are one of the best in the world. They're not. I don't rate Matty Cash at all. I think Digne is a very mature left back. But overall, the balance, this is the team that they should be going ahead with. It is well balanced. The players understand each other. They're always in sync. The chemistry is so in tuned that they don't even need to look up when they're trying to attempt to pass or they're trying to find another player next to them. The understanding between two players is so good. They are willing to sacrifice their positions to come deeper and to create space for other players to be running ahead. That's what Man
Yeah.
City couldn't do this entire game. Gundogan was dog shit. Kovacic, dog shit. Couldn't do
I mean, before
anything,
we
man.
even like get into
Yeah,
the Man City team, because I want to ask you about Man City and what went wrong for them today, and kind of talk about some of their players and their abysmal display, especially Jack Grealish for me, not the dribbler that people think that he is. I hate people who dribble and then turn back the ball. But before I get into Man City, in terms of where this game leaves Aston Villa, they sit fifth, right ahead of Manchester City. Man City dropping in the sixth position. So Aston Villa currently on 28 points, 1 point ahead of Manchester City, and they've both played 17 games. So this was an important victory for Aston Villa.
no,
Um,
for sure.
coming into this game, Man City obviously would have wanted to bounce back after that defeat to Manchester United in the derby. Two goals coming late in that game as well at the Etihad, or the MTR, I should say, right?
Mhm.
This also puts Aston Villa on leveled point with Nottingham Forest. And, for quite some time this season, Aston Villa, they kind of did stumble in terms of having poor results, but they find themselves in sixth position. So, well, not sixth, but in fifth position, which is a good thing. It's a small squad. Leon Bailey is not really on it so far this season. John McGinn played in his position. So it's a very, very small squad. And, the question marks, or I mean, there were question marks for Aston Villa this season. Can they retain a European position, especially that top four position? For me, I don't think they're going to make it into that top four position. However, I think they can fight for a European place. And if January comes and they strengthen in January, then I think that could also help them to, state a claim in terms of qualifying for a European position going into next season. But let's delve into Manchester City. The likes of Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva played out wide, Erling Haaland, the striker. Phil Foden played in that number 10 position. Obviously, for me, he was ineffective in this game in terms of creativity. Wise, really and truly didn't do anything much. Guardiola, I think, despite City having a bad season, I think Guardiola has been one of their standout players. He's trying, he's making an effort to at least, when he walks off that pitch, he can hold his head high and say, what, I tried my best, I did my best. But in regards to other Man City players, it's not so much the case in terms of what they're giving for the team. What do you think went wrong for Man City today in this game against Villa?
I think their build-ups had many issues. Firstly, I think they're devoid of confidence. There is no belief that they can actually get through the line, especially with the teams like Aston Villa and Premier teams, right? I think building up with the back three with Rico Lewis, Akanji, and Guardiola, from the very first minute, we saw that they lost the ball and they were almost about to score in the very first minute, and that was astonishing to watch. That is what Man City's situation is all about right now. The moment they pass the ball ahead to Jack Grealish, you don't see a Gundua or Kostic stepping up, showing a little bit of mobility, trying to deceive the midfield. They couldn't do anything about that, right? You need players around Jack Grealish. You need Jack Grealish to be spraying passes ahead, passing, squaring the ball, horizontally trying to, find his players. But there was no sort of rhythm in their game at all. You would see a Jack Grealish trying to get past Matty Cash, but Cash would end up fouling him, or you would see him passing the ball to Phil Foden, and Phil Foden would be in those pockets. But there, he had no ability to find Haaland ahead. So this was, for me as a spectator, it was so frustrating to watch this. Watching a team like City who have actually been have established that ethos of fluidic football under Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
You couldn't see it. You couldn't see them breaking anything. You couldn't. Haaland blanked out. I wouldn't even say that. Haaland did not get serviced enough. And the moment
Yeah,
he
it was
got serviced,
non-existent in this game.
he wasn't. But the moment he got the ball at his feet, you would see a Pau Torres or the other guy next to him totally knackering him. They totally
Yeah.
dominated him. So, I mean,
But
it was
over the years for me,
cutthroat.
City, they've always been a team that they do depend on their wingers in terms of getting in behind, getting to that byline, and then playing that ball across the face of goal. I remember when the likes of Leroy Sané, Mahrez was there. There was always that interchange with the fullbacks and the wingers, or they had the likes of KDB who would play the ball out wide and they would get in behind and link up and drive to the byline, play balls across the face of goal, and Aguero would get on those, or Raheem Sterling, etc., etc. And for me, I think since Mahrez and the likes of Sane and Sterling, I think since they've left, the wingers for City, to me, they're not as direct as they should be, or what they once were. When Jack Grealish gets the ball, he's not going to beat a man. He's trying to come back and lay off the pass. The only person that you can say that takes on players, it's Doku and Savi as well. But even Doku, he's kind of ineffective. He'll beat his player, but there's no really end product in terms of his final pass or his shot at goal. I think Savi is a bit better in terms of his decision making and actually beating a man and leaving him behind. But so many things went wrong for Man City today. I think also the intensity, not only confidence, but the intensity of winning those second balls, it wasn't there. And that's not something that we're used to when it comes down to a Man City team. You expect that as they lose the ball, they get back on that second ball. You know what I'm saying? But really and
Yeah.
truly, they didn't really show anything. Pep as well, I think he's void of ideas. He's scratching himself in the last couple of games, and talking about, well, not killing himself, but he's not under pressure from Man City fans or the board, but he himself knows that this is not good for Man City. But as I said, wrapping up now, I think this is the final nail in the coffin for Manchester City. I don't see anywhere
This,
where City can come back to win the Premier League title. But before we close off, in
yeah.
terms of your man of the match, who do you give the man of the match? Couple candidates, you have John Duran, Morgan Rogers, as well
No,
as John McGinn.
I think the two key players for me were three key players. I think Onana, Tielemans, and Morgan. I think Rogers. I think they all three they performed an exceptional. They did an exceptional service to Unai Emery. I think the way they played the game was absolutely tremendous. And
Yeah.
just before we close down, um, I just want to talk about Man City once again. I think the thing with Man City is right now you're talking about the players. You're talking about players who have been proven in the past, who have actually proven themselves by winning so many trophies. So it's just that it's kind of confusing for even us to realize, is the talent ID so bad right now, or have they actually regressed? Players like Bernardo Silva, like you
Mhm.
mentioned, on the flanks are too slow. I don't think that. I never thought that was his position. the way Pep was using him in the system, the possession-based model system. Now Pep is desperate to find goals, and in that system, in the current system, the system with tweaks where other teams have found them out, they're pressing onto them, they're condensing the spaces.
Yeah.
Such wingers cannot play. Bernardo Silva needs to play either in the right back position or in the midfield. That's how it
Mm.
is. Okay, Kevin De Bruyne needs to come back into the team. They need to find people who can create. They're not creating anything. Phil
But that's
Foden,
the thing, if you look at City over the years, the likes of Bernardo Silva who played in that midfield, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, they had creative players over the years. But if you look at the midfield now, there's no such thing as creativity. You also had Phil Foden as well. But even when Phil Foden was in that team with the likes of KDB, those players were on the top of their game. So Phil Foden could slot right in. But when the emphasis is on Phil Foden, he's not creating. And this midfield is kind of dry in terms of Phil Foden, who's not on form. You have Gundogan, who went to Barcelona recently. And, it's a surprise that Man City even took him back. I think that shows that the standard did drop a little bit. There's no way a player leaves the club and then you take him back. That was kind of a strange one for me. And it's not like you went to Barcelona and set the world alight and you take him back. And then you have Kovacic as well, who really and truly is not that he's not a first team player,
these these
but
these these midfielders don't deserve to start. Gundogan,
yeah.
Kovacic need to be benched. Why do you think it's not stupendous to go ahead with players like Savinho and Doku? Start them. Why the fuck would you go ahead with people like Grealish and
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva? Doesn't make any sense at all. Doesn't make any sense.
But this definitely shows that the City squad needs a bit of a refreshment in
Yeah.
terms of the recruitment that they'll have to do next summer. But by then maybe Pep Guardiola will be gone, and you have these 130 charges coming up now. So it's tough times for Manchester City. So it is what it is. But people, once again, this is the Loudmouth Football Show. We're just wrapping up the match review as Aston Villa just beat Manchester City 2-1. Goals coming from Morgan Rogers and John Duran for Aston Villa, and the only goal coming from Phil Foden. Once again, is he world class or is he not world class? You can leave your thoughts in the comment section. Once again, the most important thing is to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, people, stay safe.